Welcome back, and we were talking about low-frequency tag reading, and Glenn, you're going to give us a demonstration of the ultra-high-frequency readers, and looks like you have a pile of tags here, so tell us what you're going to do here.
Yeah, so basically just going to kind of demonstrate one of the challenges in the industry has been reading multiple tags or multiple animals at the same time. So if you want to read in a wide alley, for example, at a feedlot, how are you going to do that? So we've had this challenge with the single file versus wide alley. So here with this UHF scanner and this unknown pile of tags, I can simply go around and in a few seconds I've just read 33 tags.
So if we look at what you have on screen, I'm seeing a whole pile of tag numbers on there.
That's correct.
And you did that with one scan, basically.
Yeah, in just a little over a second I was able to read all of those tags, tell them all apart, and in fact some of them I read more than once during that time.
So how many tags can you read at once with that kind of scan?
In a pure sort of theoretical situation, we can do about 800 in a second.
Okay.
So the fastest we've ever done in the lab is about 500 in a second. So yeah, it can read a large number of tags in a very short period of time.
What about interference from metal structures or anything like that, or other radio frequency devices, cell phones, cameras, that kind of thing? How's that affecting this?
Well, one of the ways they built new radio frequency bands for different technologies is they do things designed to, live within interference. So this uses a very sophisticated actually frequency hopping technology, so it actually doesn't send out its energy on a single frequency for very long. So it hops around its band in a predetermined sequence and uses little bursts of energy. Because it can read one single tag in less than a microsecond, it doesn't stay there very long. So it really is designed, because it's in the same band as, say, a 900 meg cordless phone, but you can hold the phone up right near the reader and you don't even notice it.
That was my next question, because cell phones are running at about 800 megahertz.
Right.
It's not going to have interference with that. You have a microwave or a wireless router about 2400 megahertz, so it's not going to interfere in those frequencies. No. So that's so what about metal? I think you're going to get people that saying, well, if I'm loading, what about scanning all the animals on a Catliner?
Right. Well, metal does have an effect with radio signals. There's no doubt about it. And metal typically is a reflector of radio signals, and in many cases we use that to our advantage. We put metal behind antennas to create larger, radiation patterns. So again, it's not something that we have any difficulty in mitigating if it's a problem, but we can also use it as an advantage.
Okay. Denser structures such as wood and concrete, is that going to be an issue with this?
Yes, there's no doubt about it that you can create an environment, like if I put one of those tags in my pocket, I would have more of a challenge trying to read it. So that does have an effect. There's no doubt about it.
But it doesn't look like it needs line of sight to read either.
No. No, that's right, because of again, up to sort of 30 feet read range. And the other thing, the other flexibility of newer technology is with just a stroke of a button, I can basically say, but I only want to read this tag from 6 or 7 inches away, for an example. I can just, at a stroke of a button, create a new kind of a read environment. So I could have my long-range read environment, and with a press of a button, I'm now in my short-range read environment, because I may be just reading animals in a single file application as well.
So you're not limiting your application space, basically, and in whatever the low-frequency tags are doing for you, it can be done with the ultra-high.
Yeah, that's correct.
Now, your organization, the SAIT research people, which you are one of, did some development on this, and you brought us some drawings, and you're going to talk a little bit about how you've developed this type of tag. So we're going to go to the screenshot here that you brought along, and this is a drawing of a typical livestock tag that they've started with. Tell us what's going on here. What was the evolution of this tag, of these drawings?
So in 2011, basically we had a group of students in our mechanical design school just simply take a look at the various form factors of tags that exist in industry. As you said, the typical panel tag. And what are some ways that we could look at to actually add UHF technology to these different form factors? So again, you see the very, very, standard staple or Ketchum or bright tag that is used in the industry. And again, just some students did some out-of-the-box kind of sketching and ideas as to how we could actually utilize those going forward.
Now this looks like something that we're getting closer to what we see on the...
A little bit closer. Again, we have the, the rules in Canada, the regulations regarding, tamper-proof natures of tags and various other things that need to be considered as you develop a tag.
So these ones you have here, these are the end result of those renderings of those ideas as well.
That's correct.
Okay. And what we're seeing inside them is this type of antenna that you showed us before.
That's correct.
And great. Now, I understand to get this project off the ground, Alma was very helpful with some of their funding and some of their advice, and I guess that goes back to 2011, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. So in July of 2011, we basically, after submitting a project, scope and plan and application to Alma, they funded this project to basically look at two things, really. One was, at that point, there was no UHF RFID tag for cattle. So we were looking at trying to develop a prototype. The second thing was, how then can we leverage that tag with what we see as the many use case opportunities in the industry? So those are sort of the two main premises around which our project has been operating.
And how can you describe their involvement in terms of how they looked at this project, what they required for funding and that kind of thing?
Yeah, they basically, we had some other industry partners, obviously, at that point in time. We had a great deal of assistance from Livestock Identification Services. Alberta Agriculture and Rural Development also contributed some funds as well for some of our field trial components.
Excellent.
And then, given the RFID lab at SAIT, the nature of of what we do, right, and the expertise that we had, that it looked like a pretty natural fit, to develop a project and the success opportunities of it, right?
Fantastic. Now, when we come back for our next segment, we're going to talk about some of the case studies that you've worked on specifically with livestock.
Yep.
But before we go there, I guess there is a higher level application as well with unmanned aerial vehicles. So, but just before we break, well, actually, we've got to take a break right now, but when we come back, we're going to probably just chat about that. So join us in a moment.